Most of my videos begin with some kind of long-winded speech about the context that led to this point that's debatably relevant to the video viewing experience. But not today. This video is going to be incredibly straight to the point because that's what the people want to see. Don't you even look at that time bar, because I can guarantee the next 60 seconds will be completely no nonsense. And here is how. Resident Evil 2 is a 2019 game that was released on all major platforms that was a reimagining of the 1998 classic of the same name, and if you've watched any of my Resident Evil videos, you know that I'm quite fond of it. RE2's Remake is a game that I've played an uncountable amount of times in the nearly 3 years since I first bought it in 2020 and rightfully earned a spot in my favorite games of all time list. I bring it up as a positive example in every single RE video I've done. Reviewing it was the first RE video I made, and I got to talk about it in comparison to the original when I reviewed that game last year. What I found quite depressing in hindsight was that after I reviewed the game for the first time, I decided to immerse myself in the ranking system, and that produced an interesting video-worthy experience that I had just yet to see when I first covered it. So I figured, hey, maybe that could be its own video someday. But then I see that there was this new massive trend on YouTube of getting the Platinum Trophy in video games, and I realized I could expand this idea into becoming a video where I went after all the trophies in the game and talked about the ranking system as well. I was never much of a trophy hunter in games, don't think I ever sought them out before now, but I wanted to do this video now as a way to make the remake of RE2 fresh in my mind as Leon's remade story is about to continue in the Resident Evil 4 remake, the game I'm most excited for this year, and it's about to release in a couple weeks. It also gave me a chance to properly play RE2 on the PlayStation 5 with this next generation patch that RE3 Remake, and RE7 all got. The next gen upgrade includes DualSense integration on things like the adaptive triggers for firing your weapons, 3D audio, and ray tracing while still having 60 FPS. The upgrade made the game, especially in the RPD, look really dark, but it also resolved the bizarre way the lighting would look around the characters on previous versions. I've seen this in a couple games, and I don't know what this is, but I'm sure someone in the comments can explain it. If PC players got the upgrade but don't like it, you can also downgrade back to the game we got at launch, so there's that. And that's my opening speech, wrapped up by the 60% mark of the second page with size 13 font double-spaced. A new record for me. Now let's collect some trophies. But before that, I want to talk about the fact that this video is brought to you by HelloFresh, a very popular meal subscription service. We all know that cooking food at home is often time-consuming and tedious with routine trips to the grocery store and trying to sort through different ingredients to make what you want. But ordering food out is incredibly costly at the same time and usually not as good for you. HelloFresh makes cooking at home both accessible and affordable by delivering right to your doorstep, with dozens upon dozens of weekly options, including a rotating selection of items at the HelloFresh market. There are plenty of dishes to choose from each week, no matter the occasion. HelloFresh even offers veggie, pescatarian, and fit and wholesome meals to make it easy to stick with eating healthier. It is also, like I said, cheaper than both eating at a restaurant and shopping in a grocery store as a result of their pre-portioned ingredients, meaning you don't waste money on an excess amount of food. Once all the complexity is removed from the equation for you, I actually forget how much fun it can be to cook at home. To get in on the action, use my link or go to HelloFresh.com and use code POGJSMAR60 for 60% off plus free shipping. Once you click, my description will live update to count up the purchases. Thanks again to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video. Now, having said that, let's get into the trophy hunt. First thing you need to do in order to collect the trophies in this game is download the DLC for the 1998 soundtrack. Nah, that's a joke. But I mean, I just find the original soundtrack to be so memorable, definitely my favorite in the series I've played, and I cannot picture the remake without it at this point. So I figured I'd mention that before we start. Now let's actually begin. I already mentioned that trophy hunting has never been a hobby of mine. If I had to guess, I'd imagine the amount of platinum trophies I have is only for games that hand them out like candy. Typically older games that weren't designed for trophies like the Sly HD collection. Besides that, I can't say I've ever tried getting them because it's not really for me. I'm more interested in just playing a game's campaign or doing some kind of personally issued challenge. However, if you like this video, feel free to let me know. I'm sure I could come up with some other games to do it with. But anyway, the first thing I did was look at a list online of what the trophies were for this game so I could see how many were simple and easy and how many were more difficult and required some skill, at least. Which is exactly how I'm going to divide up this video. The main game has 42 trophies and 28 of them are bronze trophies. These are ones that are very simple and obvious. To start, you get trophies simply for reaching milestones in the campaign. For example, you get a trophy for reaching the RPD, which on normal mode and skipping cutscenes would take about 3 minutes tops. But then you get a trophy for clearing this boss, or finishing the sections with Ada and Sherry, and for beating the game. Campaign trophies are basically freebies. There are 9 of them in total. 6 of them are bronze trophies you get for clearing certain points in the story, but the last 3 are silver trophies. One for beating Leon's story, another for Claire's, and then a separate one for the B campaign. Note, I first played Leon A and then Claire B. That run of Claire B counted towards the Claire trophy and the B campaign trophy. The game does not care if it's a character's A campaign or B campaign. That's up to you, and we'll be taking advantage of that in some of the harder ones. But I did say there were 28 bronze trophies, and that's because there are plenty you do have to go out of your way to achieve, but the skill ceiling on them is quite low. such as counterattack an enemy grab with a defensive item. This is simple. You have a defensive item and you press the prompt that then appears when being grabbed from the front. Something I'd imagine will happen to a vast majority of players playing this game. The trophy data backing that up. Other easy ones include mixing herbs together, shooting a grenade after you feed it to a zombie, or shooting off Mr. X's hat. Things you will probably just do even if it's not required. Like the trophy for placing a wooden board against a window. Not all the windows in the RPD, just one of them. And there are several ways to make that easy. I mean, the west side has a wooden board right next to the safe room, which is where the window is. They could have used this as a chance to have an easy trophy for the windows and then a more difficult one for closing them all. Although, come to think of it, I don't even know if you can do that. I never close these windows in the east side of the RPD because I don't have enough boards, and the west side is more important to close because that hall is going to have a licker in it later in the game alongside Mr. X chasing you, so extra zombies is not something you want to deal with. Although if I'm talking about wooden board strategy, I don't like how there are some rooms where you just can't stop the zombies from busting through the windows even though you got to the window before they did. The prompt just won't appear. But anyway, an example of the game having an easy gimme trophy for one they do have a harder variant of would be how there is a trophy for destroying one Mr. Raccoon toy, of which there are 15 in the game. These guys aren't super hard to find, and if you don't know where to start, you can just look up the locations online. But like I said, they aren't super taxing to find, you just wouldn't really be thinking of the locations that they picked. Like I have to turn around after blowing up the alligator. The raccoon toy will be there. Out of plain sight, but still easy to spot for players who are looking. But the bronze trophy only requires that you hit one of them, but you also get a trophy for destroying all 15 of them. Note, this does require 2 runs to do, and that's because one of them is outside the RPD where only the B character explores, but then besides that, the alligator section is exclusive to Leon, and the orphanage is exclusive to Claire's story. You just have to go upstairs to find it, where most people would probably go through the busted down door since that's where Sherry's section ended. This was actually the last one I had gotten before getting the trophy as well. Exploration-based achievements are the bread and butter of the trophies in this game. You not only get one for all the raccoon statues, but then also for smaller things like opening one of the locked safes. The first couple require you to find the passcode at some other area, but then the last one makes it easy since the combination is right on the safe. So if you don't feel like looking for the file that has the code or looking it up online, this one will make it easy for you. There's a trophy for grabbing one of the hip pouches and for reaching maximum storage capacity and for opening one of these portable locks. These are interesting in that there are 8 lights on it and it's random which of the buttons will correlate to which light. You need to figure out how to get it in sequence from 1 to 8. Not super complicated, but still, I like doing it. Getting both of them is very worth it, as a hip pouch in the lockup room is your reward for getting both of them opened. Which, like I just said, there's already a trophy for getting your item capacity to max as is, so you're gonna have to get both of these to begin with. Then you get a trophy for upgrading one of your weapons. This is merciful since you don't have to upgrade every weapon to max, you just have to do one. The waiting area locker has an upgrade for both characters, as does the rookie's first assignment puzzle in the west side office. The parking garage key also leads to an upgrade for Leon's Matilda, and the elevator control room in the same area has an upgrade for Claire's grenade launcher. Needless to say, you can do whatever you want or just grab every upgrade like I do when playing the game. I've presented multiple options for these exploration-based trophies, however, you're going to have to get them all at some point because opening every safe and locker combo is also a trophy, so you can't pick and choose anyway, but I figured I'd present the gamers with options nonetheless. The biggest example of a search-based trophy is the Lore Master one. This is granted to you for reading every single file left behind in the game. It's easy to do, so therefore it's a bronze trophy, but you do have to keep an eye out for ones tucked away in back corners like this one in the RPD's 3rd floor that describes the liquor. But more importantly, you do have to complete multiple runs for this one. For example, the orphanage has exclusive letters, one of them being tucked away upstairs for Claire to find. And also, there are notes exclusive to the B campaign. And I mean both B campaigns. In Leon B, you can find a note written by Claire at the Nest cable car, but in Claire B, you can find one at the exact same spot written by Leon, and these 2 notes count separately. But once you figure out the full list of notes and know which ones you have and don't have thanks to the in-game list, you'll have no problem grabbing them all, even if it feels like busy work. Other trophies require some mild finesse. Not super difficult ones, but definitely things you have to go out of your way to do, such as killing 3 zombies with 1 grenade. If I had to pick one easy spot to do this, it would be the part of Leon's story where you unknowingly open all the jail cells with zombies in them. There are a ton of them here. I think this is the highest concentration of zombies in the entire game, so it's an easy spot to do it, you just need a grenade. Although I tend to take the side path here because you only have to contend with Mr. X instead of getting through the horde. There's a trophy for shooting a zombie dog or liquor out of the sky while they jump for you. I had already gotten this trophy when I first played the PS5 version last summer, so I don't have any new footage of myself doing it, but the replay is gonna have to be enough.
I say it's mild finesse because these enemies leap around pretty quick, but it's not that hard to do, you just have to time it right. Speaking of timing, there are trophies dedicated to that too, like beating the final boss of both Leon and Claire's story within a specific time frame. These ones are easiest done with infinite ammo weapons, however I managed to get it done by fighting the bosses normally this time. Guess I just had enough ammo to do the job. One of the harder trophies is unlocked in one of the more difficult boss fights, the G phase with the crane. But there's a trophy for clearing this boss with only one use of the crane when normally it takes two. To do this, you just need to inflict enough damage on Birkin before using the crane. I do not have the numbers on when exactly you've done enough damage to reach this point, but again, I managed to do it for one of my runs in this video without the infinite ammo weapons, so congrats to me. Then you get a trophy for clearing this Sherry puzzle within 60 seconds, but since the puzzle pieces are RNG, I can only say you'll either get lucky or just memorize the sequence and reload the save if you didn't get it the first time. There's a specific trophy for Ada where you get one for using no weapons at all during her segment. I had glanced over this one by accident, and I was like, oh crap, do I have to play the entire first half of Leon's story for a 5th time in this video? But it turns out, no I did not. Because back in the summer when I played this last, I just happened to save before the alligator part, and that's right when Ada's section begins, so it was an easy trophy to do from that point on. But then you get some pretty interesting ones. The Frugalist, Minimalist, and the Small Carbon Footprint. These are all silver trophies that require you to know what you're doing. The Frugalist trophy is granted to players who beat the entire campaign without using a single healing item. No green, red, or blue herbs, and no first aid spray. Obviously, the challenge with this one is going to go up with each difficulty you play. But here's the trick. The trophy counts if you play the game on Assisted mode, the easiest difficulty in the game. I'd actually never played easy mode from start to finish before today, so it was an interesting experience. The aiming automatically targets the zombies, making the combat much simpler. Beating the game with no healing items becomes much easier because of the fact that when your health is in the danger state, it will automatically go back to the caution state after some time has passed, thus giving you some room for error with this run. It sounds like cheating, but the devs didn't program assisted mode from locking you out of the trophy, so I decided to take advantage of that fact. The Minimalist one caught my eye a couple of years back while playing the game on Steam. I saw it as an achievement for never opening the item box throughout the entire game. It wasn't as hard as it might sound, to be honest. With this, you just have to be picky about what you bring with you at all times, and then discard things you don't need but might want, such as ammo. If you do this on normal mode and grab all the hip pouches, you should be able to get through this pretty easily. Then there's the Carbon Footprint, a trophy for taking less than 14,000 steps during the entire game. Another that can be simple if you know what you're doing. If you have some knowledge on how to get through the game, just beeline to the end without much wandering around. For this, I'd say do it in the B scenario, because that way you don't have to play the gas station and streets opening, thus cutting down on the amount of steps it takes to beat the game. I pulled this one off in my easy mode playthrough. But then you have DLC trophies. When RE3 2020 released, RE2 was updated to include this piece of paper left behind at the gun shop by Jill Valentine, playing off the scene from the RE3 remake. That's a bronze trophy. But then there are other trophies for extra modes. First, you have the one for clearing the 4th survivor mode where you play as Hunk in his escape from Raccoon City. This one counts as a main trophy, not a DLC trophy, but since it's an extra mode, I figured I'd lump them all together. The 4th survivor mode is a case of practice makes perfect. You gotta survive a gauntlet of enemies through the sewers and then back up through the RPD to reach your extraction point with a finite supply of weapons, ammo, and health. It took me about 3 or 4 tries to beat this, as you learn what enemies can be run past and which need to be taken out, as well as what ammo is worth saving for what enemies. The Ivy guys are placed towards the end, and for that reason you'd want to save defensive items for them since getting grabbed is an instant kill otherwise. Once you've got it down, it's a simple trophy. The Ghost Survivor modes are alternate universes where characters who die manage to escape the city. These being similar to the 4th Survivor in that you need to make your way through a horde of enemies. Only with the twist that some have supply backpacks or rocket packs you can blow up to inflict massive damage on the surrounding area. Some zombies spew poisonous gas in this mode as well, plus some exclusive enemies to deal with. There are only 2 trophies for these missions. One is locating all the Mr. Raccoon statues across the missions, and the other is for clearing the final mode unlocked by beating the others, where you can play as the police officer from the gas station against an army of zombies. Unlocking it proved difficult, but easy mode came in handy again, as beating the previous missions on easy unlocked the last mode. But you have to do this one legit. I didn't think it was particularly fun, to be honest. The gas station is a cramped map, and the combat mechanics in this game aren't that fun when just shooting zombies for 15 minutes. The enjoyment is the tension you get when managing resources and the fear of getting attacked and losing health or progress. The raw act of shooting is not that fun or interesting in this, so it's nothing like the mercenaries from RE4 for example. But I eventually beat this too after a couple of tries. Leaving only 4 trophies, the Golden Trophies, 2 of which come from beating Leon and Claire's story with an S rank on normal or hard mode, and the other 2 come from beating those stories on hardcore mode as well, no rank required. getting high ranks rewarding you with infinite ammo weapons and such. I'll outline what it takes to get an S in this game. The ranking system here is based purely on time. If you pause the game at any moment, you'll see a timer in the corner of the screen, and that's the clock you need to worry about. The results screen in the menu shows you what times you need to beat the game to get a certain rank. To get an S in Leon A and Claire A, you need to clear the game within 3.5 hours on normal mode. To get an S on normal mode's B scenarios, say that 17 times fast, you have only 3 hours. But on hardcore mode, you have only 2.5 and 2 hours respectively. The A scenario is giving you an extra 30 minutes because of the opening at the gas station in the streets, I imagine. Although the B character has the extra boss fight at the end, which is about as substantial, so I feel like 30 minutes is a little generous. If you've played this as often as me, there's no reason you can't get an S rank on normal mode because over 3 hours is pretty merciful if you know what you're doing. To get an S, you're allowed to save as often as you want and use infinite ammo weapons. So if you're specifically trophy hunting, then this should be doable for you, especially since the hardcore trophies just require you to beat the game at all, when that mode has no checkpoints outside of save rooms and you need ink ribbons for those, and there are only 3 hip pouches in hard mode instead of 6. But I know you're here for a real challenge. You want to go beyond the S rank, the hidden S+ rank. How do you get this? Well, the conditions are still based on time, and those haven't changed from what I just said. The additional requirement is that you cannot use any infinite ammo weapons besides the infinite knife. Don't know why they allow you to use this one, but I'm glad, because, strategy tip, the lickers are helpless against knives in this game. You can utterly stunlock them with this. That, and it's also handy to have a weapon to use against a zombie grabbing you that will never break. Zombies in hardcore mode being a huge threat to the player because one bite sends you from the fine state straight into the danger state, and like I said, dying sends you back to the last save, but when getting an S+, that's pretty scary because you can only save 3 times in the entire game. So how do you do it? Speaking as someone who's gotten the S+ on all 4 campaigns for both normal and hardcore mode, here were my hardcore mode strategy tips. 1. No puzzle solutions off the top of your head or keep a list you can quickly refer back to. The Steam community page and the internet is full of handy guides for this sort of thing. The idea is to waste as little time as possible, so just know that the first safe combo is 9-15-7, and what the greenhouse codes are for each campaign before getting there so you don't have to spend time solving it or looking it up while playing. Speaking of saving time, don't spend a lot of time in the inventory screen. The clock only stops when the game is paused and you can see the stopped timer in the corner. The clock is still running while you're in the inventory screen. The biggest thing to consider when going for the S+ is what 3 saves you're going to use. This pretty much comes down to how confident you are in your skills at this game. If you consider yourself a decent player who knows what they're doing but haven't gone for the S+ before, I'd pick the following points. First, around the Birkin battle in the RPD. You could do it before or after, that's up to you. Saving before means you have the safety net of starting right at the boss fight before trying again if you die, when the risk otherwise would be starting the entire game again. But if your health is high and you have ammo, you should be good. The boss arena has health pickups on all difficulties. I like to save after this because of the fact that redoing this boss over and over if I die to the zombie dogs or lickers later would be a major pain. But if you're really confident, you could just not save at all during the RPD and save those 3 ink ribbons for later. I could probably do it, but it would be pretty tense to deal with since one death would mean doing the entire game again, like I said, but the worst part would be having to replay the sections with Ada and Sherry especially that are heavily scripted. If you've saved at any point during or after the RPD, I'd recommend powering through the sewers level without saving and just making sure you have enough defensive items or ammo to get past the G adults, because you're going to want to have as many saves as you can in the nest. But then also, you don't want to have to redo the second Birkin battle, which is the most tedious boss to have to keep replaying if you need to reload the save. The nest is an area I think you should use your save slots in because of the Ivy enemies killing you in one hit, like I said. Plus, there's a part with 2 lickers that can destroy a run if you aren't careful. Finally, I'd advise players to use their last save here in the lab where the G-Virus is. It is tedious to have to keep playing the third Birkin battle again if you die to the final bosses, but I think this one is pretty manageable to begin with. And I also wouldn't want to risk dying here anyway, so I always save before that boss fight. Leon's final battle being quite tense, as you don't get much room to run away from Mr. X's final form, and you also have to dodge and attack until Ada drops the rocket launcher. But once you've beaten that, you're in the clear. Claire's final boss is tough, though. You get the minigun here, but it only has 400 shots, which is not enough to defeat the monster, so I use all of that and then whatever ammo I have left to keep doing damage, and when I'm out of that, I use the knife to finish him off, which should be easy when it has low health. Ammo is obviously a scarce resource in the hardest difficulty, but if you play your cards right, trying not to miss, shooting zombies in the legs and such, you should be in decent hands for the endgame and getting the S+ as a reward. Which I did in a Claire A run, but then Leon B was kicking my ass, so I was like, S+ be damned, the trophy says S, I'm busting out the infinite minigun. Without it, I don't think I would have beaten the game fast enough to even get a regular S, because it took me 53 minutes to be nearly ready to leave the RPD, which is much more than I usually take due to the aforementioned ass kicking. So then I beat the game with the minigun and got an S, and got the final trophy, which unlocked the Platinum trophy granted to you for getting all the other ones in the game. With that said, you're probably ready for the video to end now. No, I pulled that joke last time. Let's get real. While also closing the video in a timely manner. All in all, getting the trophies in RE2 2019 wasn't so bad. The hardest thing to do in this game is getting the S+ on hardcore mode, but there's no trophy for that. With a guide, or even without one, I think getting the Platinum trophy of RE2 is a pretty reasonable and doable thing. I do think it was a missed opportunity to not capitalize on all their opportunities for the hardest trophies, but I still enjoyed my experience doing this. Getting back into this game and making it fresh in my mind for when I play RE4 Remake in a few weeks, which, I must repeat, looks like one of the coolest games I'll ever have the chance to play. I cannot wait for that game. Generally speaking, I wanted to do this video on RE2 because getting the highest ranks in this game gave me an extra lens to view it from. I love games that are technically short, but rich in how much you can get out of its mechanics by replaying it over and over. RE2 2019 was an unforgettable first playthrough, but continues to be satisfying on repeat runs no matter what kind of challenge you're going for, whether that be trophies or just self-imposed ones, and I wanted to share that with the audience. An experience like the S+ only further backed up the fact that this is absolutely one of my favorite games to ever exist. So to close, like I said at the beginning, if you enjoyed this video, say so in the comments and we could do this for other games. But that's all from me, so thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay, seriously, it was only funny the first time.